Hello and welcome to this episode of the New Eve Show. My name is Bridget Alabi, and today I wanted to talk about the woman with the flow of blood. So at church today we read about how the woman who had been hemorrhaging, who had had the flow of blood for 12 years, wanted to get healed by Jesus, but she was too ashamed. She didn't want to walk, up straight to him to ask for healing. And also because, at that time, if you're on your period, you're unclean. Anything you touched was unclean. Anything you sat on was unclean. And for 7 days, you had to do certain rituals and everything to become purified. So she knew that she wasn't supposed to be there. But this was a woman who had been having this problem for 12 years. So I just wanted to take a couple of seconds to think what that really means. Because if you're a woman, you're watching this and you get your period, say 3 to 5 days, every so often, every cycle, every month. Maybe you're one of those people who have really heavy flow, period flow, and maybe even extends to about 7 days. Remember how you can think of how inconvenient that could be, particularly if you're constantly really just bleeding. Now imagine that you don't get a respite and you've been on that period for 12 years, not 1 year, not 2 years, not 3 months, not even 3 weeks, but 12 years. You can understand how weak that woman would have been, how frustrated, the fact that she was unclean. That means she couldn't even, probably stay with people or touch anyone for 12 years. So she would have been craving human connection, should have been craving physical healing, mental, emotional healing. A lot of things were going on for that woman. And I know that a fellow woman like her would appreciate the trial and the trying period that she had been for so long. But then she did something. She said, you know what? I've been hearing about this man, this Jesus. I may not know who he is. I may not know that he's the Son of God. I may not know. Maybe she has not been able to really be privileged to get close enough to be able to listen to his preaching. But she had heard that this man worked miracles. And she said to herself, I'm going to go to this man. And I'm not even going to say anything to him. I'm not going to even touch him. I'm just going to touch the hem of his cloak. That's not even his body or any item of his on himself, but apart from like the cloak, the tassel of his cloak. So that was immense faith. And you can imagine if any of us is going through anything difficult for a week, 2 weeks, 1 year, 2 years, after a while, can start getting really dejected, frustrated, where's God in all of this? But this woman had faith, and it was her faith that healed her, because she kind of sneaked into the crowd and touched the hem of Jesus's cloak. And Jesus knew that something had happened because he felt power go out of him. And it's something I know you've heard maybe over and over again, and I've heard over and over again, but it's really interesting for us to pause and think that Jesus wasn't even talking. He wasn't expecting the woman to talk to. There wasn't dialogue. It wasn't like another person who, God, please heal me, help me to see, help my son or help my daughter. No, this was somebody who didn't even have that direct communication with Jesus, but Jesus knew that he had healed somebody. So her faith was enough to draw God's power to her, without even more or less asking for permission first, and for Jesus to release that power. So just pause and think what that really means. But where I'm going with this is, first of all, and I know that this was a ritual then for women to be unclean when they're on their periods and stuff like that. And I know that God was preparing his people for something more. He wanted them to start understanding some of the traditions, some of the ways our bodies work, some things that shouldn't be done while on your periods and things like that. But we know that everything in the Old Testament finds its fulfillment in the New Testament. This woman went on to Jesus, and technically Jesus should have been unclean because she had touched his garment, she had touched something, but it was the opposite. Jesus healed her. So, and I know we hear these things about menstrual hygiene, menstrual this, poor menstrual hygiene and things like that, how we have to help girls in different parts of the world and women to have sanitary towels for menstrual hygiene. I prefer menstrual health, because there's a connotation when you hear menstrual hygiene to think that something about the period is unclean. It's not unclean. Nothing God created is unclean. God created the menstrual cycle. God is interested in your menstrual cycle. If God did not create the menstrual cycle, we won't have all of these people in the world. And he was one who told us to be fruitful and multiply. So he put all of those mechanisms and processes within us for a reason. It can be made holy. It is, but in and of itself, a great thing, a good thing. And of course, if as Christians, if we elevate it and we offer it up to Jesus, offer it up to God, it can become an instrument for holiness for us. So whenever you're thinking of a menstrual cycle, and you're thinking of how to take care of yourself during your menstrual cycle, and you're having problems with your menstrual cycle, and you're talking to somebody about your menstrual cycle, you want to tell somebody on your period, I want you to take that stigma out of it, that shame out of it, to say, you know what, I'm a woman, I'm supposed to have a menstrual cycle. It's how God created me. And when he created me, he looked and created the world. He created man and woman, created everything. He looked at it and saw that it was very good. So my menstrual cycle is good. Now, I know that sometimes we have negative experiences about our menstrual cycle, that is too heavy, or in the case of this woman, for instance, hemorrhaging, maybe you've got heavy periods, fibroids, and things like that. Or maybe you have scanty menstrual cycle and things. And I know. Original sin came with so many things that disrupted the natural flow of how God wanted us to be and to live. However, in and of itself, the menstrual cycle is not a bad thing. It's not just a normal thing. It's actually a really, really good thing. So if you're here and maybe you're struggling with the menstrual cycle, maybe you have heavy periods like this woman, even though hers is on another level, but maybe you have heavy periods, you've tried everything. First of all, I know you probably remember that the woman herself the Bible said that woman had been going to different doctors for 12 years. Like she's been struggling for this for 12 years and going to different doctors, going for one treatment or the other. So maybe you have done the same. Maybe you have, tried this or tried that. If you haven't, if you are struggling with the menstrual cycle, if you're having heavy periods, please, first of all, do not be ashamed or worried about going to see your GP or your doctor and to say, you know what, I have a very heavy menstrual cycle. I don't think this is normal. Or I have a very scanty menstrual cycle. I don't think this is normal, particularly if you're trying to get pregnant, because your menstrual cycle is an indication of your well-being and your fertility. So please walk up to anyone. Don't let anybody think, oh, it's a normal thing for you to be having heavy periods. It's a normal thing for you to be having scanty periods. It's normal for your periods not to be regular. It's normal for you to have heavy periods, or you don't see your period at this time, or you have cramps during your period, like massive, really, really massive cramps that you almost can't do anything under a period. Please reject it. It's not a normal thing. It's not a woman's problem that we don't have a choice, so that we have to face. No, that's not how God created. That's not the normal menstrual cycle. So if you have any of these problems with the menstrual cycle, first of all, demand to be seen by your GP. Don't let them minimize your problem. Don't let them think, oh yeah, it's fine, deal with it. Our mothers dealt with it. Is the curse for women, is the witch of the month, is the whatever thing. No, you deserve to have a menstrual cycle that doesn't cripple you with pain, that is not too heavy or too light, because again, it's about your health and your well-being, and you deserve to have a healthy menstrual cycle, a healthy body. You try to be okay with your menstrual cycle. So please, first of all, that's the first step. If you're struggling and you're worried about your menstrual cycle, please go to your GP and get them to check out what is going on. Most of the time, they will probably do a scan. If it's too heavy, maybe to find that there's fibroids or endometriosis or something. Please find out what's going on with the menstrual cycle. Now, it might be that you have already been to your doctor, or you're going to go to your doctor, and this is a response you're going to get. Or you've got this problem, or you've got that problem. Try to follow their instructions as best as you can. If, for instance, if you have a heavy menstrual cycle, heavy period, and you've been told that maybe you've got fibroids or anything, chances are they might suggest that you do some kind of surgery. If the fibroids are really, really large and maybe affecting your periods, affecting your day-to-day living because you're losing so much blood, or maybe making it difficult for you to get pregnant. In that case, please follow the advice. Please follow their advice, because having, for instance, large fibroids might make it difficult for you to actually become healthier and make it easier for you to get pregnant. However, I also want you to consider this, because maybe one of the things you've heard about this, and it is true sometimes, is that women will go and take out their fibroids, and they find that the fibroids grow back with so much vengeance and even worse than before. So it's like, why am I going to do this surgery if, for instance, it's going to come back, or there's a chance it might come back? So this is where the approach I use come into play. It addresses the root causes of those kind of things. So if you're having problems with your menstrual cycle, you've tried the medical route, or you're thinking about doing it, also spare your thoughts for the fact that you might also want to do something more holistic about it. And by holistic, I mean addressing the root cause of it, not just removing the fibroids. So sometimes for some people, fibroids could be genetic, heavy menstrual cycle and all of those things could be a genetic thing. It could be like you know, your mom, your aunt, people in your family generally get fibroids or they get heavy periods and stuff like that. And it could also be environmental, like you inhaling, you have a lot of hormonal imbalance from the things you eat, the things you use, products you use, and things like that, and the diet you have. So whether or not you decide that you're going to go to see a doctor, or you've been to the doctor and you're worried about maybe doing surgery or anything, I want you to consider having a more holistic approach to dealing with your menstrual cycle problems. Thinking about what your diet should be, what kind of exercises you should do, things that will make it difficult for the fibroid to grow back if you indeed have to go for surgery. Or it could be that you go to the doctors and they're like, yes, you've got fibroids, but it's not such a big deal. We don't want to operate on anything. Again, you want something that will help you to have a healthier menstrual cycle on the whole. Please consider checking out how the New Eve method can help you with that. I will leave a link below this video so that you can begin to explore what this approach can do for you. But again, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to the doctor, particularly if you're really, really worried, because it could be that you actually need medical intervention. The holistic approach is gentle, it's natural, but it supports you rather than healing you of fibroids, for instance, and unless you get to the doctors and they've said, oh, we can't find anything wrong, and then of course, maybe they'll suggest to you change your diet or use this supplements or whatever, then of course please consider checking and using a more holistic approach to address your menstrual health problems. So to summarize, first of all, God created you as you are. You are not unclean. You are not having a menstrual cycle is not a stigma. It's not something that should be a stigma. Or talking about your menstrual cycle, being able to challenge people who talk to you about yourself. For instance, when I say challenge, I mean if you go to your doctor and they're kind of minimizing your problem, it's a lady problem. You should be able to stand up for yourself and say, no, I have a right to have to be healthy. Because I'm a woman doesn't mean I should be in pain for several days in a month or lose so much blood that I'm anemic. Go and demand the help that they should give you. And don't feel ashamed, don't feel like you're unclean, don't feel like you can't talk to people, don't feel like I can't say to someone, I'm on my period, so I don't feel like doing this, or I'm on my period, so I have a bit of cramps, I want to rest, so, or whatever. Be bold enough, because you are perfect. God has created you with that menstrual cycle for a reason. It's a gift. A gift not just to you, but to the world in its entirety. And also, if you're struggling, please go and talk to your doctor. Try to see if they can help you with anything medical. But we know that sometimes medicine is not enough. Medicine is not enough. Try a more holistic approach. If for instance you're told to take a medication or to do some kind of surgery, consider the fact that it might not be enough. It can take care of the symptoms, like taking the fibroids or whatever thing they've told you to do, but it doesn't address the root cause of the problem. So consider something that can help you to have a more holistic approach in terms of your diet, in terms of what you should be doing day to day, your life, your lifestyle. Having the lifestyle that will help you with that. And a more personalized lifestyle, not just, because I know we could always go on Google and say, what should I eat if I've been diagnosed with fibroids? It's not quite the same. Every woman is very different. So this is one of the things that my approach looks at. However, yes, please do that. And then to round up, please remember that the God that created you with that menstrual cycle is there listening to you. He wants to help you with it. He's the one that created it. He doesn't want you to suffer with it. So go to him, just like that woman with the hemorrhage went to Jesus and touched the hem of his cloak, and she was not reprimanded for it. In fact, she was what's it called? I'm trying to look for the word now. She was praised. She was praised for her faith. They said, why did you touch me? You should have asked for my permission. You're unclean. I know nobody said anything like that to her. Jesus did not say anything like that to her. Jesus understood her faith. This is why, if you're struggling with your menstrual cycle, whatever it is you decide to do about it, go and talk to Jesus. Tell him what you're going through. Don't be ashamed to talk about your menstrual cycle. Don't be ashamed. What, God, I'm having, my periods are too heavy. It's making me weak. Can you help me? Can you show me the way to do this? Can you heal me? Can you heal me? He can heal you. Even though most of the time God will normally would expect that you would do something about it, not just, pray and then, wait for God to heal you. God uses medicine, uses people like me, therapists like me to help people. So ask him for the faith for that healing, and then go and do what you can also do. And between asking God for that healing with faith and doing what you should do, somehow, one way or the other, God will heal you. So this is my own little take on that passage in the Bible. Anytime we read it, I come across it, because of my work, I always, it speaks to me like, this is a problem that looked like it was happening 2,000 years ago in the time of Jesus, but we still have women right now who are struggling, maybe not up to 12 years, but are struggling with their menstrual cycle and struggling with their menstrual periods. And it can be more than 12 years, in not at the stretch, of course, but of course from puberty to when you stop having your periods. So some women that can be, maybe 40 years or something like that. So that is about 40 years of going through a really, really difficult time nearly every month, apart from when you're pregnant. So it's a big deal. And the God that created you, Jesus, who was in the gospel 2,000 years ago with that woman, is still the same Jesus today. And he will be very happy. He'll be very excited to hear your plea, to hear your prayer, and to provide you with what you need to be able to move on to the next stage where your period is no longer the issue or the problem that you're facing. So I hope this helps you. And if you have any questions, let me know. And like I said, I'm going to leave a link below this video so I can begin to explore a more holistic and natural way of approaching your menstrual cycle. Take care and God bless. Bye.